Hello everybody. Okay, we have some noise here. Yes. Hello everybody, here I'm back again with another live stream today, and the subject is Bluetooth. I'm making pads and how I make pads. I will show you from the base how I do this, for instance, in Bluetooth. Okay, let me first check if the live stream is running smooth. Yes. I have to open the laptop here. Yeah, it's making a lot of noise, as you noticed. So, because if you are logged in and you have a YouTube account or a Gmail account, you can also go into the chat and ask some questions. So, and I will check this on the right side. Okay, here it is. Sorry a bit for the delay. Okay, let's start. Okay, we have Bluetooth, and the live stream we did first time a few weeks ago, and that was also with Bluetooth. And you still can watch this live stream on the playlist from Bluetooth and also on the playlist of the live streams. And in this other live stream I talk about the concept of Bluetooth and what we had as an idea behind it, and I did show quite some things you can do your own in Bluetooth in editing the presets and that kind of tips. And now I like to focus on the pad sounds. Bluetooth is great for pads, but maybe you also find it interesting how to make your own pads and to see how I make a pad in Bluetooth. Well, here is a pad which is from the 02 Pads 03 from this bank, Pads 03, and it's very nice. It's actually, this was Prisma playing. Sorry for that. I had the wrong track selected. So here's Prisma that uses Predator, Bluetooth, and Bluetooth. Of course, it's a live stream, and then things can go wrong. So now I was playing this synthesizer, which I will talk about a bit later on. So, okay, let's go back to Bluetooth and open it. So what I wanted to play was this sound. Well, this one uses oscillator A and B and oscillator C, and oscillator C is actually a sample, Vox sample. So in Bluetooth, it's not only the traditional subtractive synthesis you can use, but also combine it with a range of samples. But this I will show a bit later on. So one thing I wanted to show you also is this sound, what you hear now. It's very much stereo. This is also done because of, for instance, the FX section, which has a chorus on board, stereo delay, and last time I told you as a tip, I'm not sure if it was with Predator 2 or maybe with Subboom bass, if you have, for instance, a bass, sometimes on a bass sound you have a chorus, and chorus makes the sound a bit thicker but also nice stereo. So if I play this groove now, you hear a bass sound, which is actually the dock bass from Bluetooth as well. And this one uses in the FX section the chorus. So you hear that this bass is pretty stereo, especially when you're listening with your headphones or maybe on good speakers. You hear that it is stereo. Okay, when I put down now the chorus, it will be mono. And sometimes this works even better in a track, especially if you want to have the sound next to it very wide. So when I play this pad sound next to it, because the bass is mono, you have a kind of contrast, something mono and something which is very stereo, in this case the pad sound. So let's put on the chorus on the bass again. Now the bass gets again very wide stereo, and now I'll play again the pad sound. It's still nice, of course, but why not try this also in your own track to put off a bit of the FX on the bass sound to make it more a mono bass sound, so that the other sounds get more freedom in the stereo imaging. And look, it's the same as making a painting. To show something which is very colorful, you need to have something next to it which is maybe less colorful. That makes the other one more colorful. So with pad sounds, to have them very good in your mix, this could be a trick to make them extra wide. And of course you can see that I have, you see my hands going over the keyboard here. Another thing, before I start making a pad sound from scratch, another thing I would like to mention is with pad sounds, sometimes people play too many notes. So, and what you also can do is simply split them a bit. So take the lower one. So this makes a pad also wider to spread the note of the chord a bit over the whole keyboard range, or just playing two notes. That's a little side tip in while making music. Okay, now you still see the bass sound I use here. So let's close that one and go back to the pad sound. Here is the pad sound again. So Bluetooth is really great for pad sounds because it has FM synthesis, it has subtractive, it has two filters, it has a range of samples which are very nice for making pads. But let's make a pad from scratch now. Okay. Now I go down, you see all the banks, and then the bank manager currently. I go down, we have examples, which is an example bank where you have a few examples. For instance, a sound example with ring modulation. Kraftwerk calling in, or somebody with a mobile. Two oscillators with two filters, and here I simply pick a default preset. So now the default preset you see is just a sinus waveform, and well, for me there are two ways of making a pad sound. Okay, so one way is to use the square waveform, which is this one, and modulate it. And if you start modulating it, it changes the symmetry of the waveform. So they create the square waveform. Here, down here, it's called PWM, which stands for pulse width modulation. Now, if I open this amount here, then it starts to change the width of this square waveform. Oh, sorry, I'm turning the wrong dial. This is the amount. I need to open the speed, sorry. So this is the amount. I was turning the spread instead of the speed. Now I need to go down here to the let's see, the modulation, LFOs, and in the LFOs we see PWM A, PWM B, PWM it is, of course. And here I need to open the speed, and then I will hear the PWM on oscillator A. Now actually you can hear the, I will put it a bit louder. Now I had, last week I had the scope. Let's see if I can put that back. 1 second. I had the scope, which is actually, now that's the wrong one, which is actually an oscilloscope, and which you can use to show how the waveform looks like if you would put it and connect it to an oscilloscope. So it's multi-scope, it's called. Here it is. So I'm going to play now this square waveform. You can see, now it goes away. I need to open it again and say always on top. You see, now it looks here, this is the oscilloscope, it looks like a square waveform. While with the pulse width modulation, I use an LFO to make this square start to move. So it's essentially I change the symmetry, which is the dial here. Okay, let's put it here. You see the pulse becomes smaller. This is the symmetry of the square waveform. So if it's in the middle, you have the square waveform. And now it goes more narrow. Of course, you see also my voice talking in this oscilloscope currently. Let's check if you can see it well. Here I need to check that on the stream software. Yes. Now this I can do manually by using the symmetry. But I'll automate this as well. So, and this is the automation is called pulse width modulation. Then down here the PWMA is an LFO, and this changes this now the symmetry. And you see this then also in the scope. Watch how it changes. So when I increase the speed, the changes are faster. And if I increase here the amount, it goes deeper. This is also how you make these typical Uno sounds. You know, Uno 60. But now I'm going to use this for making a pad sound. And if you listen to it, you can hear it makes a bit of a chorus type of sound. Of course, finding the right balance between speed and the pulse width modulation is very important. What I also often do is use the keyboard range to make the speed a bit more variable. From playing low, it is a bit lower in speed. Playing higher, it is a bit faster in speed. But let's keep it this way. Now, what I do, well, I take the next oscillator. So for making a pad sound, it needs to be a full sound. I take now 2 oscillators, and also here I use the square waveform. We'll do the same. Open the pulse width modulation. Of course, I need to go down here in the LFO and make the speed go up, so that also the second oscillator also works. Okay, now it works. Now, together they sound far more fuller, and of course what I always do is have both of the pulse width modulation, a bit different in speed. So I play them now both together. Yeah, by the way, a little trick would be to copy oscillator A. So if I go here to this oscillator menu part, okay, you don't see it now. Oh, now you see it again. Oscillator, you have a menu. If I click on there, I can copy oscillator A to copy B. So that would make it a bit faster to have the same setting as a starting point. So oscillator B has essentially, this is oscillator A, and this is oscillator B, essentially a bit the same sound. Of course, now I start to detune them a bit. So oscillator B I detune a bit higher and oscillator A a bit lower. So this makes so the fine tuning, and it's in the upper screen here. You can see the readout. You see the fine is now to -4 cent, and on oscillator B it's on, let's go also to +4 cent or something like 5. Because they both are now detuned, so one oscillator a bit lower, one oscillator a bit higher. Then you get a fuller sound. Of course, this is still rough in terms of the sound. Well, what I need now is, of course, for instance, a filter to shape the sound a bit. So I take a 12 dB low pass filter in filter A, and of course I need to direct oscillator A to filter A, and also oscillator B to filter A. Then both go to this filter. I can use a bit of resonance, but in this case I like to make a mellow pad. And a mellow pad, what I like to use is then the 12 dB filter, because the 12 dB filter leaves open far more higher harmonics. So when you use a 12 dB filter, it's much nicer for pad sounds. It sounds a bit more mellow. So now I go down with the frequency. Okay, still not sounding like a real pad sound because the envelope is not okay. The volume envelope is on the right side. I need, of course, for pad sound a slow attack. So I open the attack, slow attack now. Also, I bring down a bit the velocity response to volume. And with the pad sound, you want to keep a steady sound. So when I play a note, the sustain should be fully open so that the volume goes up to the max level and stays there. Now up the release. Now it's already far more a pad sound. So what I tweak now to get it right is changing the cutoff frequency a bit of the filter so that it becomes more mellow pad. And what I also will use is key tracking. Key tracking I will open fully, because if I play low or high, I want that the cutoff frequency moves along with it. If I don't do this, the cutoff frequency internally stays at the same point. So yeah, it's very dark in the upper keyboard range. So in the lower section, it sounds quite okay. But when I play higher, the cutoff frequency doesn't know where I play. So I need to tell the cutoff frequency where I play. And therefore we have keyboard tracking, which is this dial, which I open. So essentially you don't see the dial moving from the cutoff frequency, but internally the cutoff frequency moves up along with the keyboard. Okay, so this is already quite okay. Okay, let's play the sound. It's already a kind of pad sound. Now I'm pretty much somebody who is really into the details, so I shut down again B to listen to A. And I listen to B. That one has a bit too much speed. Now again A. trick what I also used is, for instance, to have a bit of LFO modulation only on one oscillator. So this I can arrange here with one of the free oscillators, freq A. Here it is, free LFO. I need to connect that one, of course. So I select here a source, the free LFO A, and connect this to the destination. That will be then oscillator B, the fine pitch. Now I open it a bit, so I let play only oscillator B. Okay, I need to go back to this LFO. You see, it's very modular. I need to have here also speed. Yeah, and one trick what I also do is when I use this for thickening the sound is the LFO, which I used for modulation. Is in poly play mode, which means that each note has its own LFO, has its own tempo. You can hear it now, it's a bit too deep. I can go a bit deeper. So if I have, you can hear that both notes have their own LFO, and this is much better for making a thick sound. So when I go to mono and play again these two notes, you can hear that they share the same movement. Now again poly. The poly mode is then very nice to make it thicker. Of course, this modulation is far too deep. It's 100%. So fine tune modulation. So I bring it back now and I put it a bit minimal. And then I combine it now with oscillator A. So A is straight and B is modulated with this pitch LFO. Of course, you need to find the right balance. So when I bypass now, you can hear now it's bypass. And now with this modulation. So it makes it a bit more swirly. Now this is still a very dry sound. So what I could do now is already say, okay, this is not bad at all. Could fit very nice in a piece of music. I could say, okay, to make it a bit more stereo, I could add a chorus. Of course, I need to connect the output from the filter. The output goes now to dry. I need to go to FX A. And then we have the chorus. And in the FX A, I also could say, okay, go serial, then FX A goes to FX B, and in FX B, I take a stereo delay, which makes it a bit more spacey. Let's see, I take... and this, of course, finishes off the pad sound just by adding a bit of chorus and stereo delay. Of course, now I still can tweak. It's more a Jupiter 8 like a pad sound. So this is by using the square wave and pulse width modulation. That's a way to make pad sounds. And that this modulation is so special. Well, maybe it's good that I go back again. So I FX. I should now bypass the FX to show you if I pull down the pulse width modulation here in both these two oscillators, you have the square wave of again. So by adding this pulse width modulation, which is an LFO on this symmetry, you add this movement, and actually the movement of the square waveform is so fast that we don't hear the square inside of it and all the steps in between, but we recognize it as a kind of chorus sound. So this is with the pulse width modulation, and now I shut it down again. It's again the square waveform. Well, it is the case that we call this pulse width modulation. Essentially, it is symmetry modulation. And with Bluetooth, you can use this also on other waveforms. On the saw wave, it doesn't sound well, but for instance, if you use it on a digital waveform, it can sound very interesting. But okay, we're making pads now. So this is the basic dry sound, and to make it stereo, I added the chorus and the stereo delay. So this is a 2 oscillator pad sound. Maybe it's a nice idea that I saved this one, because then I could upload and link it in the description later on if the live stream is in YouTube. Save preset. I call it then now PWM strings. Okay, save. Okay guys, I hope you can follow me a bit. It's quite some things which I do pretty fast, but you always can watch again the live stream later on. Okay, so another thing which I love to do, and if you know Predator 2 for instance, I use that also in Predator 2 by using 2 filters and having both a bit with a different setting. So what I can do here inside this pad sound is make it in a different way, also stereo. So I shut down again the FX, bypass, and I send now the second oscillator to filter B. Now filter A has, what I do, I copy filter A to B. This is in the filter command, so you see filter. If you click on the label filter, you find some additional features. So now I copy over the filter A to B, and you see it's also 12 dB, it goes also to FX A and has the same setting. Only the trick what I will do now is I pan the filter A to the left and filter B to the right, and have both a bit different cutoff frequency. You can hear that? Left, right. And this way you can make very nice some stereo sounds. So that's again a bit different in terms of taste, and well, Bluetooth is very deep on that subject in terms of routing. I'm still using only 2 oscillators, and people always think, oh, you need to use all the oscillators to get a good sound. That's nonsense. It depends on which sound you seek, and for a pad sound this could be perfect. Okay, shut down again the bypass again, unbypass the FX, so we also have now the chorus and the stereo delay. And now I adjust a bit of the cutoff frequency. Have a very nice mellow pad sound. So I will save this one also. Save preset, and this for I will call strings to filters. Save. I hope guys you can follow me a bit. I can see that the chat is also catching up. Yeah, so this is a way to make a pad sound. What I like to mention is another thing. The volume, you can see here, it still uses a kind of exponential attack and release. Well, if I double click here, you have the option to make it linear. I'm not sure if this one goes to linear if I double click.
Okay, set value, that's always working. Right mouse button, you have additional options. You can set a parameters to a certain value. So now you see I'm using a linear curve for the attack and the release, and for pad sounds that's nicer. I mean, exponential curve, which is this, you can see here in the release. This is exponential, which is great for regular synth sounds. It's very more percussive, more natural for percussive sounds, bass sounds, drum sounds, and other synth sounds. But for pad sounds, linear curve is very nice to use. So I can, by adjusting the attack and the release, I can make it really spacey. Adjust a bit the very long release. It's very spacey. So this is a very traditional Jupiter 8-like pad sound. Well, and the cool thing, of course, with the Bluetooth is that you can combine this together with maybe just one of the nice samples. Let's take something. The stereo ones, I like the Epic Crier. And let's see. And here you see the Epic Crier I sent in Filter A+B. So, okay, this is the... And now I combine it with the two A and B. Maybe one octave lower. Let's see how that works for the choir. Semi. Three oscillators and you get a very nice pad sound. Okay, so I'll take another sample. Small A sound. You can scroll through the different waves. Of course, you can adjust the volume, make the pad a bit softer. Of course, now the choir is a bit muddy because it goes to filter A and B. Well, what I can do is, and that makes Bluetooth so cool, I can say, okay, no, oscillator C, go directly to FX A instead of using the filters. So now you can hear the choir, FX A, unfiltered. Okay, let's take another one. And now I add the Jupiter pad with it. So now we again have a very nice pad sound. Let's save it, and this I will upload to the in the description of YouTube, so later on you can download these. Save preset, and this I will call PWM strings and then choir. Of course, it's important what you can do on your own if you have a, for instance, just one of the regular pad sounds. Let's say we still have about 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
The other way of making pad sounds is using the saw waveform. Okay. Go back to a default preset because I said we do this from scratch. I go to the volume envelope. I will make a linear setup. Right mouse click, set value 0. So I have a linear release, linear attack. Now I go to the saw waveform. And the saw waveform is pretty thin from its own, of course. Now I use 2 oscillators here. Again, I will use an LFO, free LFO. I put off a speed. Connect this one to the second oscillator. Modulators, free LFO A to the pitch of oscillator P, and then it's the fine pitch. Yeah, if I'll play it solo, so only oscillator B, you see it's a bit drunk. So the modulation is too deep. But if I do it with a bit of taste, I already create a kind of chorus sound. So bypass, clean, and now with 1 LFO on 1 oscillator only. Of course, the LFO I can change in speed. It's still in poly mode. I show this in the other pad. Now I create more what they call a pad, which is, for instance, similar to a Selena Strings. Okay, it's still a bit too deep. Now, then I could say, okay, let's use 3 oscillators for this. And the third oscillator, what I can use there is, for instance, spread. And spread makes this oscillator C already a multiple oscillator sound. Now it's already a much fuller sound just by using 3 oscillators and by adjusting now the let's play it a bit higher. I think it's nicer if I go with this one. No, let's do it the other way. Just by changing the semi 1 octave up. Make this string a bit higher strings like high violins. Okay, all semi 12 up. Yeah, it's like the very high string. Well, one trick, if somebody knows the Selena Strings, the Selena Strings, essentially, if you put off the chorus in the Selena Strings, you had this. And if you put on the chorus, I will do it the same here. For instance, I take the ensemble, you get really the fuller sound. Okay, I need to have the routing. So this one goes to filter A, filter, and the filter A goes to the FX. So I'm arranging now the routing so that everything goes to the FX now. There's much freedom in the routing. Now you hear the ensemble. Single saw wave, ensemble. So I even can make with 1 saw wave pretty much a pad sound. Just by using a very thick chorus or ensemble. But of course I want to make it more thicker, so I use also the 2 other oscillators. But this is really more the classic Selena Strings. Very nice if you play very high notes. And also here you can say, okay, use a different filter type. I even don't use a filter here in this patch. It's directly into the FX. So I can pick here Filter A and Filter B. What I could do is to have a fun part, oscillator C, that I put that one in Filter B and give that one a notch filter. Let's see what happens. 12 to B notch. Okay, now I can use the envelope. Okay, my mouse is a bit doing weird. Filter B. Okay, now I use the Filter B envelope. So making a kind of sweep. And oscillator A and B I throw into oscillator A, this one. And now I combine it together. Now you hear this sound changes far more, and then of course you can add a nice stereo delay to. There's so many options in making the pad sounds, and it could be a bit longer, so I go back to the volume envelope. You see this volume envelope is a copy of the one on the upper right. Okay, let's. Okay, let's see. Let's save this preset also. I'm not sure which one you like better, the clean one or because I'm a bit too fast now. Save preset. SawStringsNotch, I call this one. And let's go back to the other one. Then I simply shut down, bypass, no filters at all. Then I have the SawStringsPure. Okay, now I go to the chat because I see some postings, and once I'm editing, of course, it's going very fast, and especially the time. So I made now two pad sounds, one with the saw waveform and one with the first one with the pulse width modulation. So this video, I saw just one post. This video is later on also in the Bluetooth playlist and also in the playlist live stream. So once I shut down the live stream, it takes some time for YouTube to upload it as a video, but you always can watch it. Yeah, each oscillator, somebody asked, each oscillator has its own amp. Amp of envelope, because for FM synthesis this is needed. So when I go here to one preset, I go to the bank, because I like to show you what you can do yourself if you have a preset inside a Bluetooth and you want to do some own things. Okay, let me see what I could use as an example. You see many pad sounds. Yeah, this example I used it a few times. It's maybe more a synth sound. I'm not sure if it's fully. Well, when I shut down the other oscillators, you can see A and B. is similar to what I did earlier. It has the pulse width modulation and has this more Jupiter-like pad sound. The second component is essentially the attack of a glass. So this is glass. The sound is a bit soft. I can put a bit loud. These are the crystal glasses from my wife. Crystal glasses, and we hid them, recorded them, did not break them, and put them back in the closet, of course. So these are real crystal glasses, which I did sample, and of course tuned, so that you can play tuned. That's the second part, but then we have this part, which is oscillator D, E, and F, and that's the reason why each oscillator has its own envelope, is that you also can do FM synthesis. Now in this case, oscillator D, E, D modulates E and E modulates F. These three oscillators make this FM part. So if I increase, for instance, the volume of oscillator D or E, you can hear that's really FM synthesis. And with FM synthesis, each oscillator which is modulating, so D and E are modulating, need a volume envelope. So E, you can see here, has its own setting. So if the amount is open, or when I change D, so there is a envelope control over oscillator D. When I shut down the amount here, it's just playing as a normal oscillator. And this is of course happening in the first two oscillators, which have this component of doing more a subtractive part. So if you go to oscillator A and B, it's this sound. You see that in the envelope from oscillator A and B, that the amount is 0. So there's no volume envelope active on oscillator A and B. But if you're doing FM synthesis, you need this volume control. It's the same with a DX7 or FM7. You see they have the operators, and each of the oscillators inside of it, or the operators as they call it, they have their own volume envelope. Well, this all together that's the power, of course, of Blue, is that you in one patch you combine a subtractive sound, you combine a nice sample that adds to it, and you use FM synthesis. So when I press now again up original, you hear this preset. And there's several variations on this one. There's also one with a choir. Let me see where it is. I think it's earlier, this one. So there are all kinds of things you can do in terms of synthesis. So if you are then in the bank of the pads, for instance, if you go here in the pads, many pads, I picked just one, White Movie 3, this one is called. Let's see what is happening. There's a 2 oscillator sound, while on the right side you always have the control over the volume shape, how the volume evolves. So you can make it having a faster attack so that and it has a very long release, you can increase it. And you make if you make, for instance, ambient music, it's nice to have a very long attack time. But you see this amp volume, how the volume develops the sound is very important, because if I shut down the attack and the release, you get this. It has nothing to do with a pad sound, of course. So the right setting here in the amp section is very important. With pad sounds, keep the sustain always at 100% because then the volume stays flat. So now I adjust a bit the attack and release to my own taste to make it, for instance, this more. Well, this is one of the presets. Let's go to another one. So that is what you can do yourself by using Bluetooth or by shutting down some parts of it. So I take just a random other preset. Well, here it uses 1, 2, 3, 4 oscillators. Well, let's just shut down 2 of them and see what happens. Well, this one uses also the XY, and the XY, it's in the vector mode. So the vector mode means that A, B, C, and D, it means that the oscillator A, B, C, and D, you control the volume balance between them. Now I did shut down A and B, so if I go back to the XY, when it goes to A and B, it goes down in volume because they are not playing. Still, it could be an interesting sound. So let's do it the other way. I keep A and B on and shut down C and D. Totally different sound. Okay, when I play a groove, let's see what happens. This one, because this one is MIDI time based, 2 bars. So I just took one preset, did shut down one of the oscillators and just played it. And that can be, sometimes you run into very interesting stuff. So now what I want to say about the XY screen, it plays now in mono mode. Each time when I hit a note, you see this dot moving. It starts again. But I also can say, let's play in poly mode. And poly mode means that each note has its own movement. So first note, second note, third note. Let's see how that works together. Yeah, what I also can see here, it's synced to 2 bars, but I can say, okay, my song maybe 1 bar is nicer, and I take 1 bar. Well, it needs to pick up the tempo. It's of course a very subtle sound, but it can be perfect. Yeah, this pad, somebody mentions this XY root. Blade has, of course, also a lot of features in terms of XY. Only the XY controls in Blade the harmonics. Now what it controls here in Bluetooth is a range of parameters. You can address them around here, which you see is not used, or vector synth. And vector synth, it means that it controls the 4 first oscillators, A, B, C, and D. So going back to this preset, I also can say, okay, let's use the other 2 oscillators and see what happens. So if you have an existing preset, change a bit the XY, the tempo, make it have a different play mode, can change it, and shut down the oscillators or put them on, take another waveform. You very often run into a very interesting sound, even without knowing all the in and outputs of the instrument. And if you make, for instance, by accident, this nice sound, so I shut. Okay, and you want to use it in your next song, save preset, and then you save OK. You call it my sound, and this one I also will upload in the description, which is in the YouTube, in the lower section. There's all these presets I made today. You will be able to download as a zip file. Okay, let's go back to the chat room. Yeah, well, today I was very busy making the presets, so I did show in 2 ways how I make pad sounds. Of course, I can continue more hours doing other details which are possible. Okay, let's see. Yeah, maybe somebody has a question about something. I'm checking the chat now. Yeah, Bluetooth. I did mention it also in the other tutorial. It's a very deep synthesizer, but if you know a bit the system, it's also pretty forward. Of course, FM synthesis from its own is very complex because this sound is very different than compared, for instance, to if you go to the another bank keyboard sounds. If you go here to the keyboard sounds, it's a traditional FM piano. Yeah, the samples inside Bluetooth, somebody is asking it. Well, the main focus is on making synth sounds. So there are strings on board and vocal stuff, strange stuff as well, tuned percussion. But you will not find a real piano. So it's really dedicated to synth sounds. Well, this piano, for instance, uses a choir sound. Or this one. Let's see. If I find more. This uses a bit of glass sample. Let's make it a bit louder. This is a sample of also again the crystal glass. Of course, we have a range of samples, preset samples. You can find them here. So you have the traditional waveforms, spectral waveforms, and then you get the samples. All kind of material is on board. Even real strings, they are very nice. Yeah, it's very good for the type of D50 sounds is very good possible with Bluetooth. Because you have the attacks of the glasses or other metal stuff. Okay, let me see if I can find another example. Okay, I need to go to the pads. It takes a while for me to find this sound. Let me see. No. Oh, I not really can find that one, but it's definitely in there. Yeah, for instance, the pad sounds, what I showed in the start of it, I used the Jupiter type of things. I made this pad sound like a Jupiter, really classic pad sound. But this preset combines it with real strings. It's a bit soft now, I'll play it a bit louder. So this is really real strings. And the trick with Bluetooth is combine this together with 4 oscillators, which make a kind of more Jupiter pad sound. They are a bit soft now, very soft in fact. I'll make it a bit louder. But if you combine this together with these real strings, you really got that you hear the real strings, but it's a bit filled with this Jupiter type of pad sound. Okay, let's see a bit louder. When I shut down the oscillator switch to this Jupiter part, you only hear the strings. It's a very subtle difference, and now with the Jupiter below it. So there are many presets that combine this. Yeah, and of course this XY pad opens a lot of you see now it goes from oscillator A to B, C and D. It's a circle. It's a preset control. You can say set to circle, set to a spiral in. These are preset movements. So many things are possible with Bluetooth. For sure, I mean, today the subject was making pad sounds and what you can do yourself. The last thing I want to show you is that we had sorry, screen is disappearing for you guys. Because the cool thing with Prisma, which is a free product which you can request if you go to My Products and you own, for instance, the Explorer 4 or only Bluetooth, you can use Prisma and even stack layers of Prisma, of Bluetooth in Prisma. So now this preset, which I'm going to play for you now, solo layer 1 is Predator 2. Now let's solo layer 2 is Bluetooth, a sound from Bluetooth, choir sound, and then the third layer is Bluetooth again, but more phase sound. And combined you have really a kind of super synthesizer. Of course, with Prisma, it takes a bit time to load each preset. It's a bit like if you would load in a sample library, because it needs to load in Predator, Bluetooth, and then again Bluetooth. And of course, this one uses the same CPU as having 3 tracks playing 3 plugins. So it doesn't reduce the CPU because it's really actually loading twice Blue and once Predator. But it's a nice way to stack sounds, and you can save it as a preset. So when I go to the manager and I take the first preset, which is called Prisma Light, you can see it uses twice Bluetooth, 2 pads from Bluetooth. First one is a string, and the second one more choir sound, so and combined together So even so, in Bluetooth you can combine synthesis and then you can go over the top by using Prisma. Okay guys, I will be back again, of course, with Bluetooth in the future with more streams, which really are some other ideas. There will be a live stream about Prisma in the future. Each week, each Thursday, I will be doing a live stream. And of course, I had to do it much earlier, but there was a problem getting the audio working in the live stream. And now it works fine. It's also in HD quality. So anyhow, guys, thank you for watching. Yeah, somebody is asking, no, in Prisma you only can use raw Papen instruments, because if we would make it open for other instruments, it might run into problems. And it's a free plugin, and if we get a lot of support because one of the other third-party plugins doesn't work, we get all the requests and the things which pop up. So Prisma is purely for the raw Papen instruments. Oh, somebody's asking about the sustain and the 16 voices. Yeah, this is addressed. We're working on this on a solution. If you play a lot of notes, that sometimes the last note, if it's gone, then you got a bit of artifacts. We are diving into it to fix this. This is a question of Jeff Ward. We also have a few glitches in the big screen version of Bluetooth, which we still need to fix. There's always something which is popping up. But anyhow, guys, so I hope to see you very soon again on the live stream. And as mentioned, yeah, you can watch it again once it YouTube did render it. You can watch it again in the playlist of Bluetooth, but also in the playlist of the live stream. So, guys, thank you for watching, and hope to see you also next time.